Students plan what they're going to learn and create their own activities and experiments for study. Then they do what they planned. The fridge and flick on the TV and it is proven in every one of our lives. Harness the power of habit. Although the following bit of wisdom has been attributed to various people, there is no known originating author. But the wisdom isn't diminished, and it is proven in every one of our lives every day. Sow an act, reap a habit. Sow a habit, reap a character. Sow a character, reap a destiny. We often take habits for granted. There are bad habits you try to break but can't. Good habits you wish you had but don't. Annoying habits others have you wish they didn't. And odd habits you picked up yourself somewhere for reasons totally mysterious to you. We're all aware that habits exist, though we often are not as aware of our own as others are. However, we seldom realize the enormous power of habits. A habit is something you do without thinking. You come home from work, walk into the house, pull a beer out of the fridge and flick on the TV while you're talking to someone on the phone, without any conscious decision that a beer is exactly what you need right now or that there is something you urgently need to see on television. There are two kinds of habits, those that serve you and those that don't. Brushing your teeth is a habit that serves you. Biting your nails is one that doesn't. Looking for the best in people is a habit which serves you. Anticipating their worst is a habit which doesn't. The first type of habit wields the force of the slight edge on your behalf and moves you along the success curve. The second turns the slight edge subtly but remorselessly against you and pulls you down on the failure curve. Getting up early can become a habit. So can getting up late and staying up late. Spending more than you earn can become a habit. So can putting a piece of every paycheck into a retirement account. The way a behavior turns into a habit is by repeating it over and over and over again until it becomes automatic. The creation of habits is pure slight edge. Simple little actions repeated over time. The compounded effect of those habits over time will either work for you or against you, depending on whether they're habits that serve you or habits that don't. Your habits are what will propel you up the success curve or down the failure curve. It's interesting to note where your habits really come from. They arise out of your actions, true, but where do your actions come from? Remember this? Your habits come from your daily activities compounded over time. And your activities are the result of the choices you make in the moment. Your choices come from your habits of thought, which are the product of your thinking, which comes from the view you have of the world and your place in it, your philosophy. Which is why the key to your success, the key to mastering the slight edge through the long-term effect of your everyday habits of thought and action is your philosophy. Have you ever seen the huge steel cables that hold up suspension bridges like the Golden Gate Bridge in San Francisco or the Verrazano Narrows Bridge in New York? They're flexible, yet they're so thick and strong you get the sense that no earthly force could break them. The cables made up of your right choices are just like those cables. So are the ones made from your wrong ones. The cables made from your right choices uphold and support you. Those made from your wrong choices imprison and restrain you. These cables are your habits of thought and attitude. Want to know where the slight edge is taking you? Look at your predominant habits of thought. My friend John Fogg calls them your habitudes, and the kinds of choices you habitually make. It's these habits that are taking you up the success curve or down the failure curve of the slight edge. It's tough to get rid of the habit you don't want by facing it head on. The way to accomplish it is to replace the unwanted habit with another habit that you do want. And creating new and better habits, ones that empower and serve you, is something you know how to do. You do it the same way you build any habit you have, one step at a time, baby steps, the slight edge. Harness the power of reflection. In my business, I often see people make the mistake of thinking they're being productive because they're being busy. Being productive and being busy are not necessarily the same thing. Doing things won't create your success. Doing the right things will. And if you're doing the wrong things, doing more of them won't increase your odds of success. It will only take you farther from success, faster. Nobody sets out to end up far from their goals. We all believe we're headed down the right path, or at least a reasonably right one. People get out of bed, go to work, and work hard. They love their families. They put smiles on their faces. They do everything they're supposed to do, and they think they've had a progressive day, or at least set out to have one. And all too often, what really happened is that they spent the day treading water like a duck swimming upriver against a strong current, its little webbed feet flailing away underneath, but getting him nowhere. Everybody's busy. Everyone does the actions. But were they the right actions? Were those actions productive? Did you take a step forward? These are questions that most people never take time to think about. In the 12-step system, this is called taking a searching and fearless personal inventory. I honestly encourage you to get a little searching and fearless with yourself. Keep your progress, or the lack of it, in your face. Here's a powerful exercise. Instead of writing down what you're going to do, chances are you've been doing that your entire life anyway, and it doesn't make you any better at doing them, write down at the end of the day what you did do that day. What actions did you take today that made you successful? Did you read 10 pages of a good book? Did you eat healthy food and get some exercise? Did you engage in positive associations? Did you do the things that you need to do to be successful in your business? Did you tell somebody, I love you? At the end of a week, look back over your lists and take inventory. Not only will it tell you a lot about the truth of your everyday life, chances are good that the mere act of recording this daily reflection will have already started changing what you do. Here's what this exercise did for me the first time I did it. After the first few days, I found that by 10 o'clock in the morning, I was changing my normal course for the day and engaging in more positive, slight-edge actions because I didn't want to face that man in the mirror empty-handed again that night. When what you didn't improve one day is clear to you and you're aware of it, by 10 o'clock the next morning, you'll be hunting for self-improvements like a heat-seeking missile. You'll be reading, listening, associating to and with things and people that empower you. You won't be able to help it. You'll become so motivated that nothing will prevent you from improving. Harness the power of celebration. There is another critical reason the power of reflection is so important. It's not just to be a nag and remind you when you're slacking off. It's also to point out to you all the positive steps you're taking. If you have kids, chances are better than ever that you can still remember the moment they took their first step. Chances are good that step got noticed and celebrated, big time. And chances are even better that within a week, they were walking around for hours a day and nobody even gave it a second thought, including them. I heard a story once about a woman who had reached a point in her early 50s where she felt she was so badly starving for affection she didn't know if she could continue in her marriage. She told her husband how she felt and said that for years she had been unable to tell if he still loved her or not. Her husband was genuinely perplexed. "But I told you I love you 30 years ago," he exclaimed. "Why would you think anything's changed?" Poor man. It had never occurred to him that it's not enough to say "I love you" one time. It's something that needs saying every day, and not only in words, but in actions too, especially those little thoughtful things that say, "I'm thinking about you and I care about you." It's the slight edge power of reflection and acknowledgement, celebration. Keep your slight edge activities, your right choices and incremental successes right out in the open where you can see them and celebrate them. Remember that all the activity ever required to apply the slight edge for your success is nothing but a series of baby steps. Trust the process. Acknowledge those steps, no matter how small or insignificant they may seem at the time. Is it easy to do? Yes. Easy not to do? Yes. If you don't do it, will it destroy you? No. But that simple error in judgment, compounded over time, will ruin your chances for success. Chapter 9. Mastering Yourself. The greatest gift you could ever give yourself is also the wisest business investment you could ever make. It is also the most critical step in accomplishing any challenging task, and is the one step without which all other success strategies no matter how brilliant or time-tested, are doomed to fail. What is this mysterious gift? It is your own personal development. Investing in your own improvement, your own personal growth and betterment, is all these things and more. Abraham Lincoln said, "Give me 6 hours to chop down a tree, and I will spend the first 4 hours sharpening the axe." In other words, he would spend twice as much time working on himself as on the task itself. What do most people do? They grab the axe, dull or not, and start wailing away at the tree. And if they aren't making a major dent in that tree pretty soon, they quit and probably mutter something about how it's the tree's fault. How you swing the axe, how hard, in what arc, and with what rhythm on exactly what spot you hit the tree, all these are strategies that concern your actions, and they can all be measured, weighed, and improved. But it starts with the axe itself, and the axe is you. Results come last. It is easy to be seduced by the promise of results. We live in a results-oriented world, a culture that overwhelmingly measures the success of a course of action by its results. Talk is cheap, after all. And what is it that really matters? Results, the bottom line. Show me. Proof of the pudding's in the eating, right? But there is a problem here. There's a flaw in this thinking. In fact, the flaw in this thinking is so profound, 95% of all people's efforts are ending up as failure. And what is so remarkable is that this isn't some deep, hidden, subtle flaw. It's so obvious, everyone ought to see it. But it's so deeply ingrained in our culture, nearly everyone is hypnotized into missing it. Here is the flaw. How can you judge the course of action you're taking by its results when its results come last? What you can do with your results is learn from them. Results are valuable feedback. Let them help motivate and guide your tomorrows. But a focus on results only takes you out of the present moment where the action really is. What about your actions? Many approaches to personal and professional development I have observed go deeper than results by focusing instead on your actions as the place to bring about positive change. That's a logical place to start looking, but the problem is that your actions are not the source of your success or failure. Again, that's why diets don't work. They can't. They're doomed to fail because most diets dictate what your actions should be. They don't deal with where your actions come from. What about attitudes? Again, most popular approaches to personal and professional development understand the power of attitude as well, and put some of their focus on taking you behind the actions to look at your attitudes. But this approach is still not getting to the heart of the matter, and you already know why, because this is where we started out in Chapter 1 of this book. The only reliable, consistent way to control your attitudes, that control your actions, which control your results, is to control your thoughts. And the source of your thoughts is your philosophy. This is why the master entrepreneur W. Clement Stone uttered these often quoted words, "What the mind of man can conceive and believe, the mind of man can achieve." Your philosophy is your paradigm, your view of the way life is. It is how you say life works or doesn't work, and determines everything about the course of actions you'll choose and keep choosing over time. Your philosophy is the foundation upon which you build your life. There is nothing more fundamental or essential. The slight edge will either promote you or expose you for who and what you really are, and who and what you are comes from your philosophy. In the Sermon on the Mount, Jesus spoke of two types of foundation. He spoke about the wise man who built his house upon the rock. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew and burst against that house, and yet it did not fall, for it had been founded upon the rock. And then he told of a second character, the foolish man who built his house on sand. And the rain descended, and the floods came, and the winds blew, and burst against the house, and it fell, and great was its fall. The foundation upon which you are building the house of your life is what will determine the nature of the house itself. Will the house stand? Will it fall apart? Will it leak? Or will it withstand whatever weather nature throws at it? What results will your life produce? It is a critically important question because by the time the results are in, the outcome will already be pretty well determined. You can't wait for your results to judge your actions. You can't wait to see what kind of house you've got before you judge whether or not it had a sturdy foundation. Your success will always be the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Your philosophy comes first. Your results come last. And this brings us to the most important slight edge strategy of all. Continuous learning. American author, humorist, and common sense commentator Mark Twain observed, "The trouble with the world is not that people know too little, but that they know so many things that ain't so." We've talked about all sorts of forces you can harness to help power your path through life. The most important force of all, the force that drives the whole process of living with the slight edge, is the power of continuous learning. Once you've set foot on the path of mastery and grasped the philosophy of the slight edge, educating yourself through any and all means available is the critical process that will keep you on that path and make the slight edge work for you. I don't mean education in the more narrowly defined sense of learning specific skills or subjects. Naturally, you need to pursue continuous learning in order to acquire the knowledge and skills involved in mastering any subject or pursuit that will contribute to your personal and professional growth and development. But it's more than simply a matter of acquiring specific knowledge. Continuous, lifelong learning is the material from which you continually build your philosophy. And by now, you and I both know how important that is. Learning is also the material from which you build your awareness, and that is also critical in mastering the slight edge. Of the slightly more than 6 billion people on Earth, according to the Wycliffe Organization, 1 billion cannot read. But consider this, if you are one of that 58% who never reads after high school, what's the difference between you and the billion people around the world who couldn't read if they wanted to? No difference at all. Of course, simply reading won't necessarily put you on the success curve. Remember my shoeshine woman and her little pile of novels? No question about her literacy. The woman loved to read. But where would she have been if that pile had included Norman Vincent Peale, Dale Carnegie, Zig Ziglar, Jim Rohn, The Millionaire Next Door, Smart Women Finish Rich, and any of the hundreds and thousands of other inspirational, educational, empowering books out there? Where would she have been if, for the previous year or two, she'd read just 10 pages, one chapter of those books in between customers? She'd have all the knowledge she needed for success. And if she implemented the slight edge, she'd have all the success she dreamed of. When was the last time you attended a seminar or took an adult education class? Not because you were required to, but simply to improve yourself. When was the last time you went bowling? If your bowling average is over 200, congratulations, you're a heck of a bowler, and you may want to rethink your priorities. I know bowling is one of the most popular pastimes in the United States, but wouldn't you rather have success be your most popular pastime? I'm not picking on bowling or any other form of recreation. We need balance in our lives, and taking time at the bowling alley can also serve you in all sorts of ways. Your fitness, your relationships with your friends, your ability to let work go, to relax and have fun. All good things. But the question is, are you developing yourself? Are you building your dream or only your boss's? Shape your philosophy by reading just one chapter of an information-rich, inspiring book every day. Listen to 15 minutes of a life-transforming audio cassette or CD. Take a course or seminar every few weeks or months. Are these things easy to do? Sure. And those simple disciplines, compounded over time, like a penny doubled every day for a month, will send you up to the top. Are they easy not to do? No question. And if you don't do them, will you destroy your life today? Of course not. But that simple error in judgment, compounded over time, will pull you down the curve of failure and take away everything you've hoped for and dreamed about forever. Let me ask you a question. If 5 frogs sat on a lily pad and one decided to jump off, how many will be left? The answer is 5. All of them are still sitting there, because one frog only decided to jump. He didn't actually jump. The famous Chinese proverb says, "The journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step." Another wonderful example of traditional slight-edge wisdom. But note, the journey starts with taking a single step, not with thinking about taking a step. Plenty of people accumulate knowledge but still dwell on the failure curve. It's not only the quantity of knowledge that sets and keeps your course, but also the quality of knowledge and the habitual action behind it. There are different types of knowledge and different avenues of learning. If you want to stay grounded and move ahead at the same time, you need a balance, and you need habitual action that reflects your philosophy. In my marketing business, I'm often asked for the key to success. What's the one thing I can do to guarantee my success? My answer is always the same. Be here, actively immersed in the process 1 year from now. That's really the only right answer. It's the slight edge answer. You can't build your dream by what you're going to do or planning to do or intend to do. You only build your dream by building it. If you aren't doing, you're dying. Life is doing. Confucius said, "Knowledge without practice is useless. Practice without knowledge is dangerous." I can read a book like As a Man Thinketh, return it to my bookshelf, then come back a year later and read it again. And it feels like somebody sneaked into my room while I was sleeping and completely rewrote the book. Why? Because of the learning by doing I've gone through in the interim. My experiences have changed my perspective. Now, when I read a particular passage or point the author makes, I understand it in a way I could not have possibly seen a year ago. And that in turn informs my behavior. Now, when I go to engage in my activity of the next day, I can apply what I've learned from James Allen in a way that I would have not thought of even 24 hours ago. Book smarts, street smarts. Learning by study, learning by doing. Read about it, apply it, see it in action. Take that practical experience back to my reading. Deepen my understanding. Take that deeper understanding back to my activity. It's a never-ending cycle, each aspect of learning feeding the other. Like climbing a ladder, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot. Can you imagine trying to climb a ladder with only your right foot? The two work together. What's more, they not only work better together, each amplifying the other, but the truth is they really cannot work separately, at least not for long. You can't go to the top based purely on knowledge learned in study. You can't go to the top purely through knowledge gleaned through action. The two have to work together. You've heard the expression, before you can walk, you have to crawl. There's much more profound truth to this than most of us ever realized. That alternating rhythm and your capacity to coordinate the behavior of opposites is a critical slight-edge skill. Balancing book smarts and street smarts is one aspect of that, and so is the daily success strategy that we'll look at next, course correction. Have you driven on any roads lately that are perfectly straight? Even when you're on one of those interstates that seem like a long, straight line to forever, do you hold the steering wheel perfectly still? Or do you move it back and forth, constantly correcting the direction the car is headed? That constant moving of the steering wheel is so familiar, it's second nature, and you probably never think about it. But if you decided to hold the wheel rigidly in place, you'd be off the road, probably in less than a minute. And in case you think that's just a matter of engineering or of imperfections in the road surface, this next example may come as a bit of a shock. On its way to the moon, the miracle of modern engineering that is an Apollo rocket is actually on course only 2 or 3% of the time. For at least 97% of the time it takes to get from the Earth to the moon, it's off course. In a journey of nearly 250,000 miles, the vehicle is on track for only 7,500 miles. Or, to put it another way, for every half hour the ship is in flight, it is on course for less than 60 seconds. And it gets to the moon. How is that possible? Because modern space travel is a masterful example of the slight edge in action. If this machine, One of the most sophisticated, expensive, and finely calibrated pieces of technology ever devised was correcting its own off-course errors 29 minutes out of every 30. Is it reasonable to expect that you could do better than that? And even if you were able to match the rocket's degree of accuracy, you'd still be perfectly on target, on track, and on course no more than 10 days per year. For anyone who lacks a grasp of the slight edge, being off course is something to be avoided at all costs. After all, if you're off course, you're failing, right? But those who understand the slight edge embrace Thomas Watson's philosophy about failure. Here is a more extended version of what he said. Would you like me to give you the formula for success? It's quite simple, really. Double your rate of failure. You're thinking of failure as the enemy of success, but it isn't at all. You can be discouraged by failure, or you can learn from it. So go ahead and make mistakes. Make all you can. Because remember, that's where you'll find success. On the other side of failure. Remember, the rocket got there, and so can you. Why? Because of continuous course correction. Your slight edge, a consistent series of tiny, seemingly insignificant actions, easy to do and easy not to do. And in this case, doing them leads you directly to the moon instead of shooting off into the vacuum of outer space. You're hungry. There's a bunch of greasy junk food in a vending machine beckoning you. And you choose a salad or a piece of fruit instead. You're having coffee with friends, and they start griping, complaining about their work, their bosses, their jobs. And you find a way to change the subject. Because you know that if the talk doesn't get onto a positive track within another 60 seconds, you'll find a reason to excuse yourself. Knowing the slight edge, you make the adjustment automatically. You make those right choices, the ones that serve you. You do those simple, seemingly insignificant things that forward your progress up the success curve. You read good books. You listen to motivating tapes. You hang around successful people who empower you. You're a 5%er, a winner, a success. Once you know the slight edge, you know that in getting from point A to point B, you'll be off track most of the time. And you know that it's the adjustments, those little, seemingly insignificant corrections in direction, that have the most power in your life. Plan, do, review is an approach to learning that began gaining credibility in educational institutions toward the end of the 20th century. And it's used in some of the better schools today. It's a slight edge strategy. Students plan what they're going to learn and create their own activities and experiments for study. Then they do what they planned. And then they review their planning and doing to see if anything was missing to help them learn what could be done to improve the process and the results they've accomplished. Then they plug these new insights into their next plan, and they're often running up the slight edge curve to success. The operative slight edge strategy at work here is the constant and consistent back and forth of doing actions and correcting those actions. Course correction, just like the moon rocket. What this strategy produces is what business management philosophy has come to call continuous improvement. This idea was introduced to Japan after World War II by an American, W. Edwards Deming. A remarkable statistician, Dr. Deming consulted and lectured Japanese industrial leaders about total quality. He taught that the system is the solution and showed how it's always the source of the problem as well. Remember what happened to the Japanese and American auto industries in the 70s and 80s? The Japanese ate America's lunch in the marketplace. Know why? Slight edge strategy. They had it, we didn't. The Japanese took Deming's slight edge teachings about simple little disciplines in improving quality, compounded them over time, and in less than a decade, they blew the much larger, richer, and more powerful industry leader, the United States, out of the water. So far out of the water, in fact, that the top-selling car in America for years was the Honda. It wasn't that the Americans didn't improve. The 1983 Chevy was clearly superior to the 1973 Chevy. But General Motors kept looking for those big breakthroughs, while the Japanese kept making little, seemingly insignificant improvements which, compounded over time, enabled them to steal the spotlight in what was once almost exclusively an American car show. The Japanese had major automotive breakthroughs too, but they were the result of their slight edge strategy. In the 1990s, the American auto industry made a quick comeback. Great cars, record sales, and profits. It was a stunning turnaround. And what turned it around were our automakers finally embracing the teachings of W. Edwards Deming, that a commitment to developing and sticking to a slight edge strategy will absolutely, positively send you to the top. Plan, do, review creates a structure and support system for continuously improving. It's the strategy of constant course correction. The slight edge is the process. You choose which way it goes, up with the 5% or down with the other 95%. You don't just make that choice once and then say, I'm finished. Now I'm all set. You make that choice moment to moment and keep making it every month and every day for the rest of your life. Each new moment will present you with a new slight edge choice to be made. Before long, it will become natural and automatic. But when you first begin, it will require your constant awareness. Is it easy to do? Yes. Is it easy not to do? Of course. If you don't do it, will your life collapse? No, not today. But that simple error in judgment, compounded over time, will pull you down the failure curve, absolutely and irrevocably. No questions asked. Unless you accept the wealthy man's third gift, the choice, and keep on accepting it day by day and moment by moment. Throughout human history, and long before there were such things as books, universities, or continuing education programs, there has been one tried and true path for learning a skill, craft, art, trade, or profession. Go study with a master. All the great traditions of learning say the same thing. If you want to learn how to do something well, go find a master of that skill and apprentice yourself. The mentor-apprentice model is experiencing a tremendous surge in popularity right now. Mentoring networks, agencies, and organizations are springing up in all sorts of professions. And this doesn't surprise me in the least. With the advent of the internet culture, there has been an explosion in information over the past decade. Now we're starting to realize that information alone is not enough. And information plus personal experience, or the school of hard knocks, is not enough. We need some way to process all that information and experience and integrate it. And there's only one reliable, solid way to do that. Find someone who's already mastered an area and model yourself on that person's experience. To apply this principle doesn't require a formal mentor-apprentice relationship. Whatever goals you aspire to, just seek out people who have achieved the same or very similar goals, or who are well along the path, and go camp on their doorsteps, or do whatever you can to associate with them, emulate them. Let their grasp, understanding, and mastery of the subject rub off on you. If you want to raise the quality of your life, hang out with people who have been there and done that. If you want to be a great public speaker, spend time with great speakers. If you want to be a success in business, then find a way to spend time in the company of successful business people. If it's important to you to be a terrific parent, the best thing you can do to further that aim is to spend lots of time with men and women who have mastered parenting. You can define a society by the heroes it keeps. You can also define a person by the heroes he or she keeps. Who are your heroes? Who are you modeling yourself after? The 95% on the failure curve tend to accept the heroes society plants in front of them. Film stars, America's version of royalty. Rock stars, sports stars. I can certainly admire these folks, but I always ask myself, can I emulate them? Practically speaking, can I convert my admiration into constructive modeling that increases my learning and moves my own life forward? Too often, we make heroes out of people who can't help us, whose lives are fantasies, not genuine role models. Take a look at who your heroes are. Write down a list and examine it. Ask yourself, can I become like them? Are these people doing the kinds of things that I aspire to do and living the kinds of lives that I aspire to live? Can they really help me become who I want to become? Find people who have done what you want to do and surround yourself with them. That's learning through modeling, and it's a powerful part of learning how to understand and use the slight edge. The law of association. Do you remember a comment I made about income way back in the very beginning of this book? While I was sitting at the Phoenix airport thinking about my new friend, the shoeshine woman, I mused over this thought. Your income tends to equal the average of the incomes of your 5 best friends. The principle does not apply solely to your finances. It operates in every aspect of your life. Your level of health will tend to be about the average level of health of your 5 best friends. Your personal development will be at about the average level of personal development of your 5 best friends. Your relationships, financial health, attitudes, level of success in your career, and everything else about your life will tend to be very close to the average level of each of these conditions in your 5 closest friends and associates. We all understand this principle instinctively. Our language is shot through with idioms that reflect it. You're known by the company you keep. Show me where you fish, and I'll show you what you catch. Birds of a feather flock together. You are the combined average of the 5 people you associate with most, including the way you walk, talk, act, think, and dress. Your income, your accomplishments, even your values and philosophy will reflect them. The reason birds of a feather flock together is simply that they're all going in the same direction, headed for the same destination. Look at the people with whom you flock, the company you keep. What destination are they headed for? And is it where you want to be headed? This is a pass or fail test. There is no maybe about it. Remember, there is no standing still. We're all going in one of 2 directions, either up or down. Your association with each person you know is either empowering you or it's not, taking you up the success curve or down the failure curve. How can you tell? One way is to go back to the business of future and past, responsibility and blame. When you and this particular friend get together, are your conversations about responsibility, aspirations, and taking initiative? Or do they often seem to work their way around to blame or its cousins, envy, jealousy, resentment, and irritation? Do your conversations focus more on the future or the past? It's only natural, when you share a common history and set of experiences, to enjoy reminiscing over fond memories. That's not what I mean. What I mean is, does your relationship have a forward-looking, positive feeling to it? Or do the 2 of you get together and always seem to end up circling events of the past, like a cat endlessly turning around and round before it can settle down to sleep? If your relationship with someone has a theme of blame and feeds on the past, it's disempowering. If it has a theme of responsibility, self-reflection, and change, and feels like something moving into the future, it's empowering. There may be some people with whom you're now spending 2 days a week, where you might decide you need to take that down to 2 hours. There may also be people with whom you're spending only 2 minutes, where you'll realize you need to spend far more time with them, 2 hours or 2 days. For many people, I think this can be a tough aspect of the slight edge to understand and accept. Most everything else about the slight edge, as you already know, is easy to do. But disassociating yourself from people who do not empower you can be a sad and difficult thing to do. Especially if you love them, especially if they're old friends or dear family. So take heart. By disassociating, I don't necessarily mean cutting them out of your life completely, but casual relationships deserve casual time, not quality time. This part of slight edge thinking requires a compassionate awareness. Having compassion and having direction are not mutually exclusive. They just take careful thought and discernment. You're not judging those people. You're simply asking yourself to be honest about whether or not those relationships are empowering you and helping to support your purpose and realize your dreams. Leadership. I'm often asked, how do I become a leader? In our push-button, instant everything world, people often seem to want to take an express route from their first stages of learning straight to leadership. But of course, it doesn't work that way. When you start at the beginning of anything, you're at the highest level of anxiety. As you learn, through study and doing, information and experience, book smarts and street smarts, you gradually lower your level of anxiety by raising your level of mastery. As you continue climbing that ladder of knowledge, remember, right foot, left foot, right foot, left foot, study action, study action. You keep your eyes on worthy mentors, always using learning through modeling as your learning gyroscope to keep you on track. Using those three dimensions of learning, study, do, model, with slight edge persistence, in time your level of mastery rises to the point where you turn around and realize others are modeling you. You have become worthy of emulating. How do you become a leader? Through honestly pursuing the path of self-mastery and continuous learning. Chapter 10. Turning Your Dreams into Reality. While everyone has a somewhat different approach to goal setting, there are 4 simple and fundamental steps you need to take for your dreams to turn into reality. Everyone who has ever created success, whether consciously or not, whether using this specific language or not, has gone through these 4 steps. They are the 4 universal truths of reaching for a big dream. For a goal to come true, first, you must write it down, make it specific, and give it a deadline. Next, you must look at it every day. You must understand and pay the price. And last, you must have a plan to start with. Step 1. Write it down. The most critical skill of achieving success in any area whatsoever, from sports to high finance, radiant health to fulfilling relationships, is the skill of envisioning. Envisioning something simply means having the ability to create a vivid picture of something that hasn't factually happened yet, and make that picture so vivid that it feels real. Envisioning doesn't happen simply by creating a picture in your mind. If your dreams and aspirations are happening in your mind only, that's not envisioning, that's wishful thinking. It's like saying, I'll give it a try, which, as Yoda pointed out, really doesn't cut it when he said, do or not do. There is no try. Envisioning means quite literally making something up out of thin air and making it real. By definition, you can't do that within the confines of your skull. It needs to become physical. It needs to involve your senses. In other words, you need to write it down. Making pictures of it, which people sometimes call a dream board, is even better. Speaking out loud is most powerful of all. But at the very least, write it down. The moment you do, it has started to become real. What do you dream about? Pick a dream you have, any dream. Your dream house, your dream car, dream vacation, dream job, dream marriage, dream career. If you're hesitating, know this. These dreams may be as huge or as small as you like. Neither is better or more or less worthy to make real. Right now, push pause on your player, pick up a pen, and write down 5 dreams, pressing restart when you finish. Good. Now, add 2 descriptors that will make your dream more concrete. What and when. First, go back to each dream and add whatever wording you need to make each dream absolutely specific. For example, if you had a dream to be financially free, what does that mean specifically? How much money do you need in the bank or investments or coming in as annual income to achieve what you call financial freedom? If there are other conditions that need to be met, such as being completely debt-free, add those in too. What if one of your dreams is radiant health? How would you make that specific? One way would be to describe exactly how you feel, what kinds of activities you engage in, and what they feel like. Imagine reading your dream to someone you care about, and that person saying, I'm not quite sure I grasp what you mean. Can you tell me exactly what you're shooting for? So again, press pause and add specifics to the dreams you wrote down, pressing restart when you're done. Now, the second descriptor, when. It's often been said, goals are dreams with deadlines. Let's reshape your dreams into goals by giving them deadlines. Go back through each dream and answer the question, by when? You've probably heard of the Pareto principle, known more popularly as the 80-20 rule, which says that, for instance, 20% of the people in a sales force produce 80% of the results. Here's another application of Pareto's law. 80% of everything you do tends to get done in the last 20% of the time available. If you don't create a concrete deadline, that last 20% never seems to arrive, and you're always living in the 80% time that says, someday. So again, press pause and add the when to the dreams you wrote down, pressing restart when you're done. When you write your dreams down, when you've made them vivid and specific, when you've given them a concrete timeline for realization, then you've taken a giant step towards making them real. Step 2. Look at it every day. The single most compelling reason for writing down your dreams is so you can look at them and read them every day. The reason you need to look at them every day is the same reason you need to keep yourself in the company of positive people. You need to counteract the force of gravity, or, to put a different name to it, the force of mediocrity. Remember, it's 19-1, and you need to constantly remind your brain where you're headed or you'll drift away. If you don't keep yourself constantly, repeatedly focused on your destination, you'll be like a rocket ship without a gyroscope. You'll simply drift off gradually into the outer space of failure, never even coming remotely close to reaching the moon. Surround yourself with it. Keep your awareness in your face. Look at it every single day. Your brain is far more complex and powerful than the biggest computer in the world, and your own subconscious is by far the biggest distraction you have. Having your dreams concretely spelled out on paper in the most vivid and specific terms possible, and with a very tangible, concrete timeline, provides you with an environment of yes for your goals, dreams, and aspirations. And when that 19-1 force of gravity starts leaking from our subconscious and says, yeah, but are they really? We need to respond, yes, 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 yes. Here is the amazing thing, and I've seen this happen so many times, yet it never ceases to fill me with awe. When you set your goals, life has a way of rearranging itself. A series of events starts in motion that you could have never predicted or planned to get you there. If you just sit there and try to figure it out, it doesn't happen. But when you surround yourself with your goals, your subconscious brain goes to work on it. And if you have the right philosophy, the philosophy of the slight edge, then you will come up with the right actions and keep repeating those actions. And a series of events will kick in, including circumstances you could have never dreamed of that will take you to that goal. Step 3. Know and pay the price. Aha! There's the catch. I knew it. Here comes the big sacrifice. So what will I have to do? Throw away my television? Say goodbye to all fun and forego all my favorite foods? Give up a kidney? Chances are it's not quite that dramatic. Like anything else, when it comes to goals, we tend to see things like they're on the big screen. But they're not. Though your dreams may be big, in fact I hope they're huge, remember that the steps you're taking to get there are, what, huge? No, small, tiny baby steps, easy to do. The price you pay works the same way. You don't have to pay for your $1 million dream with a $1 million personal check. You can pay for it, well, with a penny a day. But you do need to understand what that penny is, and you do need to pay it. Whatever the dream, whatever the goal, there's a price you'll need to pay, and that means something you'll need to give up. It may be something as simple as giving up a type of junk food you're attached to for the sake of your health, or something as subtle as giving up your right to be right, or your habit of exerting control over conversation for the sake of repairing and saving a relationship. It may mean postponing certain purchases or acquisitions, often called delayed gratification, or letting go of some pleasures for the sake of the pursuit of a long-term aim. At a certain point in my life, when I'd suffered some huge setbacks and lost everything I had, I came to a critical point of decision. I'd been an athlete all my life, and at this point I'd become a part of a softball team. We were serious, and we got pretty good. Before long, we were traveling and winning tournaments all over the place. Then I hit a point where I knew I had to get my career back on track. It was time to pick up the pieces, regroup, and move on. I also knew I couldn't do this without changing something. I had to pay a price. It was a difficult choice, but I walked away from our softball team. My friends couldn't believe it. "You're quitting?" And I said, "Hey, you guys, you're still my friends. I love you, but get another outfielder." They're all still on that team today, still winning tournaments, and I took the same time and invested it elsewhere. I had to plant and cultivate in a different field. Remember, there aren't many millionaires who bowl over 100. Why not? Because they left the bowling league behind to build their fortunes. Is that too large a price to pay is a question only you can answer. Remember this, whatever price you pay, there's a bigger price to pay for not doing it than the price for doing it. The price of neglect is much worse than the price of discipline. It may take a few years to put your success on track, but it takes your entire life to fail. Step 4. Start with a plan. This is the point where people are often thrown off track. The point is not to come up with the brilliant blueprint that will take you all the way to the finish line. The point is simply to come up with a plan that will get you out of the starting gate. You have to start with a plan, but the plan you start with will not be the plan that gets you there. What? That makes no sense at all. If this plan isn't going to get me to my goal, why bother designing it? What's the point? Aren't I just fooling myself with a pointless plan? People make the mistake of thinking they need the perfect plan. There is no perfect plan. By definition, there can't be, because a plan is not getting there. It's only your jumping off point. And that's the reason you need a plan. If you have no plan, there will be no jumping off. You start with a plan, then go through the process of continuous learning through both study and doing, adjusting all the time through the Kaizen of plan, do, review, and then adjust. Like a rocket to the moon, off track 97% of the time. Your gyroscope feeding information to your dream computer to bring you back on track. You need a first plan so you can get to your second plan, so you can get to your third plan, so you can get to your fourth plan. Success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. Keep holding that as your philosophy, and you will generate the attitudes and actions you need to keep progressively realizing a better and better plan. Your starting plan is not the plan that will ultimately get you there, but you need it so you have a place to start. Don't try to figure out the whole race. Just figure out where to put your foot for the starting line. Just start. The result looks incredibly complex, but it's not. It never is. It's always the simple little things that take you there. Everything you do, every decision you make is either building your dream or building someone else's dream. Every single thing you do is either leading you away from the masses or leading you away with the masses. Every single thing you do is a slight edge decision. Chapter 11. Living the Slight Edge. Vince Lombardi. With the words, "Gentlemen, this is a football," legendary football coach Vince Lombardi began each new session of training, never taking anything for granted and always viewing each of his players as a blank slate, despite the fact that they were all seasoned pros. The first time Lombardi uttered his famous line, Green Bay Packer great Max McGee delivered his own immortal retort, "Coach, could you slow down a little? You're going too fast for us," and got a chuckle even from the unflappable Lombardi. No matter how great your aspirations, how tall the dream, and great the leap it means, the eternally repeating truth of the slight edge is that it is always built of small, simple steps, easy to do, and just as easy not to do. Don't go too fast, and don't be too proud to stop, look at your life, and tell yourself, this is a football. To the coach, the football was a single step that begins the 1,000-mile journey. The football was Lombardi's penny. Now it's time to find yours. What one simple, single, easy-to-do activity can you do day in and day out that will have the greatest impact on your health, your personal development, your relationships, your finances, and your life itself? In this next section, I'll ask you to walk yourself through these 5 areas of your life, one by one, to examine what they mean to you and where your dreams lie in each. And then lay out for yourself your dreams and goals, specific, vivid, and with a timeline, the price you're willing to pay, a plan to start, and finally, one simple daily discipline that you will commit to doing each and every day from now on. Go ahead now and take this stroll through your life. Take a pencil as a walking stick. The slight edge and your health. Of the 3 self-evident inalienable rights that ring from the American Declaration of Independence like a trumpet fanfare, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, the first, without which the other 2 are irrelevant, is life. And the most basic condition for the free, unencumbered experience of life itself is health. There is nothing more basic than health. And there is no area of life where the slight edge is more vividly in operation, working either for you or against you. I always start with the area of health because when I'm in good physical shape, I need less sleep, think more clearly, feel better about everything, and get more accomplished. My simple daily discipline for my health is to exercise for at least a half an hour. When I started doing this, I have to admit, it didn't thrill me. That first day I went running was a real drag. I'd let myself go physically. It was harder than I expected it would be. The first day I ran for only about 10 minutes. Then, over the next several weeks, I slowly worked my way up to my daily half hour. But even before that first week was over, I actually felt better than I had in months. I usually say that the slight edge does not work quickly, but the truth is that often you'll get some positive results fairly quickly. You may not achieve your ultimate goal in a week, a month, or even a year or 2, but you'll see the positive changes far sooner than you might expect. That's the way it was with my running. Take a few moments to work out your own slight edge plan for your health. You don't need to feel limited or constricted by this exercise. You can always change and modify what you write here. Use a pencil. But do yourself a favor. Don't skip over this. Actually, take the time to write down some solid ideas. You can always add to it and refine it later. In fact, you'll have to. That's how the slight edge works. You're not supposed to get it perfect the first time. After I ask each question, press the pause button and take time to write down specifics. Then press play and go on to the next question. What are your dreams for your health? Be specific and vivid. Include a timeline. What price will you have to pay? How do you plan to start? What is one simple daily discipline you commit to? Now that you've given your dream a framework and a deadline, choose to use the slight edge to achieve it. The slight edge and your personal development. In the amazing book, As a Man Thinketh, James Allen said, "You will become as small as your controlling desire or as great as your dominant aspiration." Over the long term, the limiting factor is never circumstance or fate. The limiting factor is always you. In the same way, and for the same reasons, the limitless scope of possibilities is also defined by one factor, you. You already know of my passion for this area and my #1 slight edge recommendation. I teach everyone I work with to read at least 10 pages of a powerful, life-transforming book each and every day. Building your own personal self-improvement library may be the single most valuable and important investment, after your personal health, that you can make. In addition to reading 10 pages a day, I also teach people to listen to a self-improvement audio cassette or CD for at least 15 minutes every day. The average person spends between 250 and 350 hours every year driving to and from this place and that. That's about 40 minutes to an hour each and every day. Is it easy to do? Easy not to do. And if you don't do it, what will happen today? But that simple error in judgment, compounded over time, will leave you a willing participant in the conspiracy of mediocrity that nibbles away at the hopes, dreams, and aspirations of the 95% who live out their days under the curse of Thoreau's famous epitaph for humanity. From Walden, the mass of men lead lives of quiet desperation. Listening to audios is an especially powerful slight edge tool because it can turn your downtime into uptime and double your productivity. You can drive to the store or work or school. You can jog, rollerblade, bike or walk, clean house, sit on planes, stand in line, pedal, row, ski, stretch and lift weights, all the while feeding your mind through life-transforming audios. And when you spend this time listening to true masters of the skills you seek to learn, you are using the third and most powerful method of learning by modeling a mentor. Take a few moments to work out your own slight edge plan for your personal development. Use a pencil and don't press start again until you've gotten your plan on paper. What are your dreams for your personal development? Be specific and vivid and give a timeline. What price will you have to pay? What day and date do you plan to start? What is one simple daily discipline you commit to? You may want to put the plans you've been creating onto a bulletin board that you'll see every day. Your bathroom mirror is a good place to write them too. Use a dry erase marker. The slight edge and your relationships. How often have you heard of a successful business person who achieved great financial success only at the expense of a rich family life? When writing about the law of association, I mentioned the importance of who you associate with in terms of its strategic effect on you. But there is a greater truth about your associations too, because the relationships you choose are not only a means to an end, they are also an end in themselves. All the success in the world means little if there is no one to share it with. Relationships, too, are both built up and torn down in the subtlest of ways. Because most people are not aware of the slight edge, the progress of their relationships tends to be a mystery. What makes a marriage grow richer over the years for one couple and grow stale, empty, and bitter for another? 9 times out of 10 or better, 19 times out of 20, there is no single significant answer. It's the little things, day by day, that add up over time to unshakable happiness or unsalvageable misery. You've no doubt heard the expression, it's the little things that count. There could scarcely be a more succinct statement of the slight edge, and chances are you heard it said in the context of a relationship. The remembered birthdays, the little gifts, the gestures, the kind words, the remembered favorite color, the 5 minutes snatched from an impossibly hectic day to drop everything and hear the other's news, the word of encouragement, the reminder of your own belief in the other person, the listening. It's been said that the most important statements of friendship are usually spoken with 5 words or less. That is the wisdom of the slight edge. Those tiny thoughts and gestures that are startlingly easy to do and tragically easy not to do. The future of every relationship you have, like that of your health, is a choice that is always in your hands and is no bigger than a penny. The key is to make the choice and keep making it. A special category of relationships, of course, is family. If you have children, you probably already know that they are in many ways your greatest legacy. No matter what the state of the educational system, the single most powerful influence on children will always be the people who raise them. Toss a rock into a pond and you'll see ripples from its impact spreading out until they reach the opposite shore. The same thing happens in life, only in most cases you never see those ripples. Everything you do is important. When you smile at a child and encourage him, or scold him and tell him he's no good, in either case you may see the splash it makes and you may see the first or second ripple, but the impact goes far, far beyond what you see. You don't see all the ripples. You teach someone to read 10 pages of a good book a day, and you may see how it changes her, but chances are you won't see how it changes her kids, and her kids' friends, and their friends, and their friends' kids. And as these ripples spread out, they grow bigger. For better or for worse, with positive impact or negative impact, even your smallest actions create a ripple effect that has incalculably great impact on the world around you. No doubt you recognize this description of the ripple effect. It's our old friend, the slight edge. Now, take a little time to think about the relationships in your life and jot down a few thoughts about how you might work out your own slight edge plan for your deepening, strengthening, and enriching those relationships. This is perhaps the most personal area of the 5, so they will probably require some thoughtful consideration. Don't feel pressured to restart the audio until you've thoroughly answered a question. This is your life. This is the reason you're reading this book. What are your dreams for your relationships? Be specific and vivid, and write down a timeline. What price will you have to pay? What day and date do you plan to start? What one simple daily discipline will it require? Of all your plans, if you practice the slight edge, the results on this one may well be the most satisfying. The slight edge and your finances. Vince Lombardi wryly observed, winning is a habit. Unfortunately, so is losing. It's no accident that our exploration of the slight edge began with the story of a penny doubled. The world of finances is one of the easiest places there is to see, objectively and logically, the power of the slight edge in action. Everyone knows about the power of compound interest, right? Wrong. Everyone thinks they know about the power of compound interest, but most don't, not really. How many really do understand this power? 5%. The ones on the success curve of the slight edge. Remember the Pareto principle as applied to your goals deadlines? 80% of everything you do tends to get done in the last 20% of the time available. There's a similar law at work in most people's finances, only it's worse. It's Parkinson's law, coined by Professor Cyril Northcote Parkinson. Work expands to fill the time available for its completion. As applied to personal finances, it goes like this. Whatever I have, I spend. There is some good news here. In the last few years, the common sense of slight edge personal finances has started making a comeback. The 1998 book, The Millionaire Next Door, bucked the trend toward flashier Donald Trump-style how-to finance books, and instead gave example after example of how a cross-section of extraordinarily ordinary people became wealthy without inheritance, without high-paying jobs, without making a killing in the stock market, without any of the usual breakthrough paths to riches, but by doing simple, easy things every day. The first of its 7 rules was, always live below your means. The book became a runaway bestseller. Living below your means is a classic slight edge strategy. I bet you already have some very concrete thoughts about this area. Perhaps you've even been working on this part in the back of your mind ever since you read the story of the wealthy man and his 2 sons. Now it's time to start putting some of your thoughts to paper and sketch out an initial plan for realizing your financial dreams and goals. Let's get started. You know the drill. After listening to the question, press pause until you've thoroughly answered it. What are your dreams for your finances? Be specific, be vivid, and give yourself a timeline. What price will you have to pay? What is your plan to start? What is one simple daily discipline you will commit to? Those few minutes will change your lifestyle if you apply slight edge principles to that plan. The slight edge and your life. What do you want your life to mean? What we're looking for here are simple little things you can do every day, things that are as easy to do as they are not to do. The key here is not to spend too much time on this. Do the thing and you shall have the power. Go ahead, take pencil in hand and sketch it out. Remember, It's your life. What would you like it to mean? And remember this too. No matter how lofty or long-term your life dreams may seem, gentlemen, this is a football. It starts with a penny. Start finding your pennies. So let's get to it. Listen to the question, push pause, write your answer, and then press restart. What are your dreams for your life? Be specific, be vivid, and give yourself a deadline. What price are you willing to pay? What is your plan to start? What is one simple daily discipline you commit to? Chapter 12. It's a Wonderful Life. The Beach Bum. You may be wondering what happened to Gorgeous George, standing there in his cutoffs at the Orlando Country Club, gazing at the rich and famous and happy and successful. For whatever reason, as happens in so many people's lives, I found myself staring squarely at a fork in the road, a point I now refer to as a day of disgust. That moment of impact we sometimes hit in our lives when we face our circumstances and make a decision to change. In that instant, standing there, sweating in the Florida heat, I came to a moment of decision. I suddenly knew that I'd headed up to here with where I was, what I was, and who I was. Something clicked. The tumblers in the lock fell into place. And I knew that I could never go back to who I'd been only a minute earlier. I knew that for things to change, I had to change. For things to get better, I had to get better. I left the golf course. That following semester, for the first time in my life, I got straight A's. I went on to business school and graduated at the very top of my class. Fresh out of college, I was recruited by Texas Instruments. I worked at TI for 5 years and went to the very top levels of the company. But corporate America wasn't for me. I went back to Albuquerque and started a solar energy company. And at first it looked like I had indeed made a smart decision. Within 2 years, my company was in the top 20, and eventually we became the 5th largest solar energy company in America. I was thrilled. I was on top of the world. What I did not yet know was that nothing ever stays the same. Everything is in motion. Everything changes. Times changed, tax laws changed, our industry was hit hard. Before I knew what was happening, I had lost everything, gone back to zero and below, owing more money than I thought I could ever even hope to make again. The lesson. The night my car was towed away, I sat in despair and thought, this just isn't fair. Here I am, after 12 long years of building towards success, at the bottom again. I'm more broke today than when I was Gorgeous George on the beach. 12 years of blood and guts, and I was more of a failure than ever. I couldn't wrap my head around it. I couldn't see the logic, the justice, the reasons for any of it. Was life just inherently unfair? Was that it? Was there simply no rhyme or reason for anything? Was there no point in even trying? That was when I began to examine more carefully what had happened in my life. I'd been a college dropout, a beach bum, and a complete financial failure. Also, I'd been a straight-A student, a top corporate salesperson, a super-achieving entrepreneur in a cutting-edge industry, and a complete financial success. And all of those had been the same person. So what was the difference? It made no sense. Or did it? For the first time, I began to see that over the years of my roller coaster career, I had gone through a rich sequence of experiences that held the secrets to success as well as to failure. I had proven to myself, beyond any shadow of a doubt, the depths of failure that simple daily errors in judgment could produce. I had also seen what simple daily disciplines could accomplish. I just hadn't quite realized what I knew. It was time to pull away the veil of circumstance and look right at the heart of the matter, to go behind the results and examine the actions, and behind the actions to find the attitudes, and behind the attitudes to discover the thinking that held them there. That was when I began to discover and explore the slight edge. Since that time, I have built some extraordinary businesses and earned more money than I ever dreamed of. I've experienced more joy and fulfillment within my family and other relationships than I knew was possible. I've also discovered new vistas in my own investment, in my own development, in terms of both health and learning. Perhaps most important than all of that is that I've built a philosophy that is grounded in reality, in the way things actually work, not on luck and the mystery of the quantum leap, but on the power of the water hyacinth. I could lose it all tomorrow. It's happened before. I'd survive. But there is something I cannot lose. And with that one thing, I could start from scratch with a penny and build it all back up again. That one thing is the slight edge. Where to go from here? Someday when I have the time, I'm going to... Someday when I have the money, I'm going to... Have you ever heard that said? Someday? It's a way we have of reinforcing the illusion that the future is safely far removed, that it doesn't really touch us. It's a lie. Not an intentional, willful deception, but a lie nonetheless. Someday is not a vision of my future. Someday is a fantasy, nothing more. Here's the damage we do with this illusion. We give weight to our someday fantasies. We squeeze some sense of enjoyment from them as if they were real, and thereby give ourselves permission to take no practical action whatsoever while we swim in the comforting sense that those someday scenarios will move closer to the unfolding present on their own. They won't. You've got to go claim them. Ask yourself, what is there in my life that I hold as someday? Do one simple daily discipline in each of these 5 key areas of your life. Your health, your personal development, your relationships, which includes family, your finances, and your life overall, which includes the meaning and purpose of your life, that forwards your success in each of those areas. Make a habit of doing some sort of daily review of these slight edge activities, either through keeping a journal, a list, working with a slight edge buddy, a coach, or some other regular, consistent means. Spend high-quality time with men and women who have achieved goals and dreams similar to yours. In other words, model successful mentors, teachers, gurus, masters, and allies, and do it daily, weekly, and monthly, and you'll find yourself on the success curve, and you will turn your dreams into realities. Successful people put the slight edge to work for them rather than against them every day. They refuse to let themselves be swayed by their feelings, moods, or attitudes. They rule their lives by their philosophies and do what it takes to get the job done, whether they feel like it or not. Successful people don't look for shortcuts, nor do they hope for the big breakthrough. They are always open to quantum leaps, knowing that such opportune moments do present themselves from time to time, but they focus on doing what they've put in front of themselves to do. They step onto the path of mastery, and once having set foot there, they stay on that path throughout their lives. Successful people never blame circumstances or other people. Instead, they take full responsibility for their lives. They use the past as a lesson, but do not dwell in it, and instead let themselves be pulled up and forward by the compelling force of the future. Successful people use inertia to build momentum, making their upward journey of success easier and easier. They know how to identify habits that don't serve them and replace them with those that do. They understand the powers of reflection, completion, and celebration, and they harness them constantly, using their radar for unfinished business to propel them forward rather than being sucked backward and downward. Successful people acquire the 3 kinds of knowledge they need to succeed. They create an ongoing support system of both book smarts and street smarts, learn through study and through doing, and they catalyze and accelerate that knowledge by finding mentors and modeling their successful behavior. They plan, they do, and then they review again and again and again. Successful people go to work on their philosophy first because they know it is the source of their attitudes, actions, results, and the quality of their lives. They understand activity, and because they do the thing, they have the power. They understand the power of daily disciplines. They understand the power of the water hyacinth and how to use it. They know when they are being offered the choice of wisdom. Successful people understand the slight edge, and they put it to work for them. So, where do you go from here? Find your penny, then start doubling it. About the author. Jeff Olson describes himself as a perpetual student of personal development. And he is as devoted to health and fitness as he is to personal and financial success. Dividing his time between his homes in Dallas, Fort Worth, and Fort Lauderdale, Florida, Jeff has spoken to more than 1,000 audiences throughout the United States and around the world. Over the past 20 years, he has helped hundreds of thousands of individuals achieve better levels of financial freedom and personal excellence.